myself. My name's Kirk Field. I was Mixmag's raving reporter from 1989 to 1995.
It's about time, right?
Yeah, overdue. Overdue.
What's up, everybody? Ibiza with Mike here. And I happen to have a very, very special friend visiting the island who was actually, believe it or not, the initial key to opening all of the major doors that I have entered into with my camera and with my DJs here on the island way back in 2007. I was invited by Dirty Dubbin, Gareth Rossi, to join his crew with the Radical Escapes Closing Parties Tour back in 2007, and that was organized by this man over here, Kirk Field. How are you?
I'm very good. It's all my fault.
Yeah, including all the stories that I've told all of you that come out and visit, especially the one of that massive hotel and the little shop outside near to Kanya where people found me after 45 minutes dancing with no shoes on, no sunglasses on, and no music playing anywhere around me.
That was a daily occurrence, Mike, back in the day. But, you know, I think I've just been saying to Mike just down on the beach before we met, I'm really, this sounds horrible to say, but I'm really proud of what you've done, what you've achieved out here, because you are on my case every single day with your notebook and pen, wanting to take notes, asking me questions. I had a trip to run. I had 503 people on that trip, and I spent more time with you than anyone else. And as much as though you were a pain in the arse, I had to give you the time because I saw, I loved your enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm hasn't been diminished. And so what you've achieved over here, and the fact you're based over here, and you're living your life over here, I think is wonderful. So I'm really proud of what he's done.
Thank you very much, Coco. It really, really means a lot to me to hear that from you in a big, big way. And yeah, I've completely forgot that. I mean, everyone else is here for a 500-person, one-week rave tour, and DJs and promoters and everyone's just here for a damn old good time. And there I am with my Lucky Life logo, making sure that people are standing next to the Cafe Del Mar waitresses and the logo to make sure I get the brand shots in for, you know, the brand collaborations, and making sure that Kirk will have a sit-down meeting with me after the night at Space to talk about how I'm going to expand my brand into the island of Ibiza.
That's right, you were. You know, but the thing is, you were ahead of the game in terms of brand, because in those days people just had club nights. But now obviously they're known as brands.
Yeah.
In fact, Ibiza is one huge brand. It started off as a secret, and then it became a destination in the 90s, and now it's a brand. But you know, you were ahead of the game on that with your Lucky Life brand. So you know, hats off to you for that.
Thank you very much. And I could finally say this week that Lucky Life is finally actually working. Over the last couple of weeks, just some of the work that I've done has just facilitated other people to be living their dreams, doing things that they love alongside me while I'm doing exactly what I love for, as you love to do, showing people the wonderful island that we love.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I first got into travel. I didn't have any travel qualifications. I hadn't studied travel and tourism at school. And I said to my wife, you know, we needed to get a mortgage, and you needed to show you had demonstrable income. And I said, I don't know what to do. I was doing a bit of journalism, I was doing a bit of performing, I was doing a bit of promoting, all of these kind of things as we did in the 90s. And she said, why don't you do what you're best at? I said, what am I best at? She goes, showing people you like the places you love. You do it in Austria, and you do it to so many people in Ibiza. Why don't you just widen the circle? So instead of taking 5 or 6 people to Ibiza, I took 500 or 600 to Ibiza.
You did indeed, mate. And when I tell people now, like, the story of Ibiza, they're like, how did you arrive in Ibiza? And I tell them these stories of 500 people for 1 week non-stop hedonism, pure clubbing insanity. It's amazing.
Yeah, Ibizan Heat was the first big regular clubbing trip, I think, that was all inclusive for clubs and for boat parties and all of that kind of thing. And it was 10 days. We had 7 or 10 days. Can you imagine doing that now? 10 days.
Yeah, mate. And you know what the budget would be? I mean, do you know what we used to pay for this? 7 days and 7 nights, 3 major super clubs included, a boat party, a day beach bar every day.
Down at Bora Bora.
Down at Bora Bora as well. Our hotel where we shared everything.
Coaches to Bora Bora and back.
Yeah, and some of the nightclubs as well included as well. 389, I think. 389 it was. 389 pounds back in the day.
Yeah.
That was insane, man. Nuts. But I did leave that needing another holiday.
And that included flights.
Yeah, with flights as well.
Flights back in the day. We used to get we used to hire, I mean, we used to hire about 60 seats in on British Airways, and then we used to get another 40 and then another 20. So effectively it was almost the Ibiza Heat Airlines coming over. And it was the party started in the airport, which obviously it does now these days. People, obligatory picture of the drink at the airport. Well, we were ahead of the game with that as well.
Yeah. What was interesting was seeing those same flights on the way back.
Really, really quiet.
Yeah.
The transfer on the way back to the airport. There, I was going, all right, on the left, that's on that spaceship on the hill, that's Privilege, where you'll be going to Manumission on Monday. And the shot on the left-hand side, that dome is Eden, where we're going to Judgment Sunday. And it was chatter, 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 on the way back. No one said anything. Everyone was just slumped down. All I said was like, make sure you've got all your personal belongings and maybe see you again next year. I didn't even get a goodbye from people.
No.
People resented me. They blamed me. They got off the bus and they just like grunted.
Until a week later when they got the serotonin back and they were like, oh, hold on, mate, it's okay, cool. No, Kirk's a bit of a legend.
Best holiday in my life, bud. Best holiday in my life.
But really good on you, Kirk. Thank you to you. Thank you to Damo. Thank you to Nick as well. And the three of you guys that really facilitated everything for myself and hundreds of other now complete Ibiza lovers.
Yeah, a big shout to Damo, actually. He's my old partner. He's over, he runs Electric Gardens over in Australia now, as you're probably well aware. But he had an operation on his throat a few weeks ago, and he hasn't got a voice at the moment. Can you imagine that? A Damo without a voice.
It's a good time to go and hang out with him.
Yeah. That's like the sun without any fire. Yeah. The sea without any water.
It's like Ibiza without a party.
Yeah, that's the time to hang out. That's the time to hang out with him when he gets me. So get well soon, mate. We're thinking of you.
Get well soon, Damo. We'll catch up for that call once you get your voice back then, hey? Otherwise, I'll be doing all the talking. But we know that's not a problem either. So let's just do a little wrap up and see where we are. Sitting here in Ibiza, outside Kumara's, and we're outside because it's closed. We came here to go for lunch. We didn't realize they're only open a bit later. I'm on my way to Ibiza Rocks after this, but I wanted to see Kirk and have a little catch up to speak about some of the things that he's been doing since we last parted ways on the Ibizan Heat Tours. Not in a negative way, just I moved here, so I didn't need to tour to the island with him anymore.
So that's why you didn't book?
Yeah, I didn't book anymore because I was already here. I still carried on filming though.
That's right, I think you were. You're always around.
Yeah, 2012, we still covered it.
You're part of the furniture for Ibiza Heat. You, Neil Murphy, the guy that fell asleep in the lift in the Poniente. Do you remember that?
Mate, I'll wait one more memory before we go into the next stage of life. Do you remember when, I think it was the year that I had my biggest crew over. I think I had 35 of the 500, which made me feel, I was up there. It's definitely good numbers. And it was time to get everyone ready for space and get them out of the Pontiente player. And everyone had started partying a little bit too early, so it was quite a herding sheep to get everyone down to the buses. And I was really proud of myself that as you got to the bus, you're like, right, have you got all your people? I'm like, yes, everyone's on. 32 people on the... And he's like, right, you ready? I'm like, yeah. And you said, right, do you want to get some shoes? And I was like, that might be an idea.
But that's typical because you were looking after everybody else apart from yourself. So again, I recognise that. He's got, mate, you need some shoes, mate.
Yeah. Look, there's been a lot of that in my own personal life and my journey through psychotherapy and everything of realising, well, maybe I need to look after myself a little bit before everyone else, and then I think
in Reiki, they teach you, the first thing they teach you in Reiki is that you've got to heal yourself first, because how can you heal anybody else if you're unbalanced yourself, if you have disease yourself? Yeah,
so how can you go out raving for 19 hours at space if you don't have any shoes on? So, you buy
€2 flip-flops from over the roads. That was plan B.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Cool, so Kirk has been doing a project, writing a book, telling some stories, sharing some history, sharing some memories, and maybe some blank spots as well, in a new project called Rave New World. And I'm a very slow reader and I'm a very busy man, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet, which I'm quite actually happy about. And I was thinking about it on the way over, is that I don't want to talk about something I know, because everyone that's going to be watching this, majority of them, won't know what it is. So I want to ask you, from the man that opened the doors for me to get into Privilege the first time, filming Armin van Buuren with good old Mo Chowdhury, who also got us in there, bless him. And opened the doors to Amnesia, to go and film with Eric Prydz, with the British Student DJ Champs.
Oh, remember that? You were on that as well, weren't you?
Yeah. And all the Ibiza Rock stuff, and wow, it's so much. And I'm going to Ibiza Rocks today as well. Tell us a bit about the Rave New World, or as much as you'd like to tell us, and what sort of stories can we expect to find inside of those books?
Well, during lockdown, I just started writing up all the stories that I've bored everybody with through the years. All those anecdotes, which I believe were, people like those anecdotes. So I thought I'll just collate them. And then it started forming a narrative. It started forming everything that I did in the 90s, from working for Mixmag as their raving reporter, doing the first sort of sweat-soaked dispatches from the orbital raves. And then when dance music exploded across the planet, they would send me to tell the story. So I covered the first rave in Russia, first one in Tunisia, Croatia. I did the first reports in Mixmag about a small island off the coast of Spain called Ibiza.
No way.
So I did the first reviews from that. This sent me out in 1990, and that's one of the best chapters of the book, actually, in my humble opinion, is when I was sent out to interview Bridget Nielsen, who was going out with Sylvester Stallone at the time, and she was launching a pop career at this huge big concert in Koo, as it was called then.
Yeah.
And so I went there, and it all unravelled spectacularly. It involved psychedelics in socks that I forgot were in the socks. And
I think that's one chapter I read. I think you sent that to me. You sent that one to me, I believe. Yeah.
And it's all about the misadventures and what's happened. It wasn't written to be published. What's happened is a long, long story, but it has been published. It came out last June. And it's the best-selling hardback and audiobook, dance music and club culture in the UK, which is staggering, really. And then only 2 weeks ago, my audiobook won an award at the ARIAs, which is the Spoken Word Oscars. Yeah. And I beat Stephen Fry and Alan Partridge. And
check it out, Alan.
It's back of the net. And the reason why that's important to me, I think, is because I fought to have music on the audiobook. I narrate the audiobook myself, and I fought to have music on there, and the publisher said, you can't have music on there. That's only for fiction books and for children's books. And I said, it doesn't matter about the genre. We've got to engage the listener, and we've got to beguile them, and we've got to seduce them in there and give them experience that feels like that they're actually there. And so eventually they let me put some music on there, and so we scored it in the studio. So when I walk into a rave, there's some house music playing, or when I walk into a Croatian underground rave in a nuclear fallout shelter, there's some techno playing underneath. So it's basically called sound design. It won the award for the best audiobook. I got silver, but the one that won gold was a radio dramatization of a play. So mine was the top audiobook, which is staggering. And from that, I've been offered a 13-night run at the Edinburgh Fringe, because I do a spoken word show. I do a presentation about the book, which is a little bit, it's just like the book actually. It's kind of humour, hedonism and history. So I did a lot of research on the book as well. So 1 minute it's kind of Bill Bryson with bass bins and loads of anecdotes. So, 3 or 4 chapters are set in Ibiza, all those kind of funny stories. But then I also plug it into what was happening culturally at the time, the importance, the erosion of freedoms, the draconian measures, the way that the press and the media dealt with the rave, and the way that dance music's looked at. And I also talk about drugs. I'm very honest about my own experience. And it doesn't descend, like many of these books do, it doesn't descend into addiction, and it doesn't descend into rehab or anything like that, because for the vast majority of people that went out in the 90s and indulged in recreational drugs, they held it together. They went to the job on Monday morning, a bit bleary-eyed, but they still made it to the job. They've raised children. That may be respected members of society as politicians or policemen or barristers or whatever. And so my journey reflects them rather than the person that got involved and it got harder and harder and harder and they ended up on the street or in rehab. And so I think people respond to it because it's kind of authentic in that way as well. And so I do a spoken word show, and I do anecdotes, and I do some things. I'll give you an example actually. When Bora Bora closed a few years ago, I thought, well, how can I mark it? I couldn't be out there that time. I couldn't get out there for that weekend, and so I wrote a poem about it. Would you like to hear it?
We would absolutely love to hear your poem about Bora Bora.
Okay, so this is it. I haven't done it for a while, so I might be rusty. So, oh, we did like to E beside the seaside. We did like to E beside the sea, asking what's your name, what you done, where you're from. A Spider-Man danced to a tribal tom. Just on frontier met Eurotrash. French and Germans out on the lash. Italians smuggling budgies in tiny, tiny speedos, gulping at bare silicon breasts like thirsty mosquitoes. If you go, make sure to inform your next of kin, because just like the dealers, the tide was always in. Groups of lads slyly keying their noses, voguing pretty boys, striking poses. Pickpockets mingling, darting eyes, waiting for the moment you're watching the skies. A mighty roar, the very air vibrates. Never underestimate the joy a jet's undercarriage can create. The sun now gone. The night comes swift for those looking for an early evening lift. Tribal house, tunes on the dunes, but G. Moore's legacy has gone too soon. Oh, we did like to E beside the seaside. We did like to E beside the sea. The sun, the sand, the beats, the freaks. Best of all, it was free.
Beautiful. Absolutely love that, Kirk.
Thank you.
Respect.
Yeah.
And you took me back, really. That was...
I just think it's interesting to celebrate dance music culture in words, right? Because everyone's... You know, I'm not a DJ, I'm not a producer, I'm not a rapper or an MC, even though I did that in the 90s really, really badly. So the way I can celebrate and mark it and evoke it is through words, and that's what I try to do in my live show. And so what's happening with that is that, you know, the Edinburgh Fringe, I've been invited to go up there to do a 30-night run. And then from there, what I can tell you is that a big theatre promoter has been in touch called Phil McIntyre, and they're currently putting together a UK theatre tour. So it's the first time that rave culture is going to be seen and heard in theatres. These are 400 to 500 seater venues from Edinburgh, Glasgow, Newcastle, Leeds, Manchester, London, Southend, Cardiff, Exeter, all over. And so what will happen is I'll do the Acid House Cabaret show, which is my Edinburgh thing, for 55 minutes, and then there'll be an interval, and then in part 2 I'll be in conversation with some legends from the scene, you know, people like Slipmat or whoever, and we'll be talking, and I'll be asking them about the music that changed their life. You know, it could be a glam rock track when they were 8 years old, or a punk rock record, or the first time they heard dance music. So I'll be having a chat with them for about half an hour, and then there'll be questions and answers, and so it's really quite exciting, but also quite daunting, because it's the first time that rave culture, something like this scale, has been attempted on this scale. So that's October, November. So it's quite a busy old year for me.
That's huge, Kirk. It's really, really beautiful and amazing. I bet, you know, I think lockdown was a moment to change people's lives in one way or another. And that time at home, either alone or you've got a family. Yeah. So, I mean, it must have been quite a thing to try and manage, you know, for everyone. But I think there was something that you could really dig deep in yourself and go and find some things that, if you really went with that, which you did, has look at what it's unraveling to years later.
Yeah, I started off doing it as a reaffirmation of what I'd done in my life, because I thought I was all washed up. I thought, you know, running clubbing travel trips, there was no travel, there was no clubbing. For 2 years there was no clubbing travel. And so I thought, and that's an awful long time. And I just thought, that's it, it's over. So I look back on my life going, right, it's almost like all the things flashing before your eyes before you die, and I just wrote them all down. There was never intention to get published. It was never intention for it to be an audiobook or to go into theatres or anything like that, or to become a film or whatever. It was just done from pure intent for me to, two things really, for me to remember what I'd done, and also to document what I'd done for my sons to read, including all the mistakes, because you try talking to teenage boys, especially if you're a dad, another male who's considered a threat and a figure of authority, you know, you can't get them to engage. So I thought, if I write down everything that I've done, all the good things and the bad things, they'll learn a little bit more about me, and then maybe some of the lessons might sink in. And so it was written from that perspective, not to be published. And I think the fact it was pure intent has maybe helped it, because it allowed me to be honest. Basically, if I'd known it was, if I'm really honest with you, if I'd known it was going to be read by thousands of people, I wouldn't have written half the things in the book. I'd have shied away from it. It was because I'm absolutely viscerally honest in it, and I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm just trying to tell a story. I think that's probably what's given it a push, because it's spread by word of mouth. It hasn't spread through marketing.
100%, Kirk. You know, it's been a major thing in my journey, really. In if I had have just stayed true to the authenticity of the message that I was coming here to tell, and didn't look for a way for YouTube to monetize it, and trying to go, right, what's the best thing that I can do to get millions of views so that people watch this, and follow every invitation that came to film the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, rather than just doing the stories that I came here to tell, which actually is the balance of Ibiza in 2012, 2011, and what we're doing now, Eat, Sleep, Rave Retreat, at the end of the Lucky Life, Ibiza with Mike, it's all the same thing, just wanting to tell a beautiful story of the different ways of living and enjoying life on this island. But I got carried away with telling a story to try and make it monetized, to try and make it big, because I needed to make all the money to pay all this crew that it was taking to make it. So I really honor you for the way that you've done it, and also to just share with anyone that's got a dream out there, that's got something inside of them, to just start working on it. Start writing it, start painting it, start drawing it, start playing it, start creating it.
Create it for yourself first and foremost, create it for yourself, because if you're happy with it, if you look at it and go, this is authentic, this is honest, I stand by this, it's much more likely to resonate with everybody else, rather than trying. I'm going to try and write a book for the over 50s who used to go to Ibiza in the 90s, because I wrote a completely different kind of book. It's purely and it's like what you did as well. If you've got to follow the initial urge, that initial impetus, that initial spark that you get. Try and keep true to that. Don't let the other things come in from the side. It's quite difficult because we live in a world of constant distractions, and it's very easy to be distracted, especially by the big behemoth of money. You know, that's the enemy of creativity quite often.
Can indeed be, big time. And I mean, my girlfriend, I'm watching her do the same thing. She's played piano since she was a child, but always had a career as a psychotherapist. And now she really decided to just pursue her life in music, and she's not playing for anyone. She plays completely improvised stuff and just completely plays for herself and only what she wants to play. And she's just going...
And that's more likely to get an audience than if she tries to tailor it. But it's hard to do. You've got to really want to do it, not do it to be successful or to do it to be famous.
And I think that's the challenging thing as well. Like with the step that I was making to come out here, it was to live from what I was doing. There was the early stages when I was still doing my sales work and was able to just, spend money on creating films and doing everything that I was doing. But then when it became about, shit, I got to now pay for this, then it changes the energy of what you're doing. And,
yes, it does.
And then you're like, oh, shit, okay, how am I going to make money out of this? Instead of, how am I going to tell the story that I want to? How am I going to create the art that I want to?
And you notice patterns as you get older. You notice patterns, and whenever I've done anything to try and be successful for my own ego or for my own image or reputation or for money, I failed abysmally. Whenever I've followed my heart, whenever I've done something because I wanted to, bringing people to Ibiza, doing my travel thing, my book, when I've just done it because I wanted to do it, that's flown.
Yeah, completely.
So you notice a pattern.
100%. Look at even just this interview. I'll tell you honestly, Kirk and I were due to have a catch-up yesterday. I had to cancel on it because I was just too busy doing the final edit of the Fantasia Festival. But luckily he was available today, and I'm in San Ann today, and so we decided to just go with the flow today. And Kirk mentioned, well, maybe you can do an interview for Ibiza with Mike. And my initial thought was, bloody hell, I've got so much footage I'm trying to edit through. I don't know if I'll ever have time to do this. When are we going to... I'm like, yeah, but it's a catch-up with Kirk. The guy that opened the doors for me to this island and to everything I'm now doing, and like the doors to Café Del Mar, and now I have a relationship with them where I'd bring my guests and I host events there and everything. So it was just like, I don't need to think about the major production behind this. I'm just gonna bring my GoPro. Thank you very much to the people who got me that for my birthday last year, and bring my phone and sit down here on the beach, and we're just gonna have a chat. And this is just going to flow, and I'm loving this.
Yeah, and as I said to you just before the interview started, if you'd have cancelled on me today, I'd have got on my scooter and gone down and gone, right, we're going to, never mind the interview, we're going to have something to eat, we're going to have a chat, and we're going to close the circle. Because we started off together and we both went separate ways, and we've had a couple of conversations, but I was working, so I couldn't really relax, and you were working, and so I thought, right, it's time to catch up with Mike, chat with him, talk with him, listen to him. And if we get an interview done, that's a bonus. This is just an excuse to meet Mike, really.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, people always know if I'm going to come, there's going to be a camera somewhere around, so I'm probably going to film something. So it's been a while since I've been doing my Ibiza with Mike content. I have been pretty flat out with some other projects, but I'm excited to get to sit down with some interesting people like Kirk.
Do you know any interesting people?
Yeah, there's one over there, mate. If you look, I have. I won't talk about it now. I have a very, very, very interesting piece of content I'm going to release. I'll tell you off the camera. While we're having a bite to eat. Kirk, tell me, I was explaining to some of my friends that are not from English club culture, they are from the international side that live on this island, and I was telling them about it was actually some people that were out last week, and they were late into the clubbing scene, and they're from the US and from Amsterdam and Spain. And so I was telling them about some of the best club movies and club culture movies and explaining human traffic. And did you ever have a moment when you were working for Mixmag, a bit like, when you had to get into the club?
I'm sure that was based on because in the book, I'm sure that was based on what I used to do back in the day, because I say in the book, there was Kirk Field from Mixmag was quite a known, he was on all the guest lists. Every single night, all the raves, all the clubs in London. I was on 5 or 6 guest lists at the time. So quite often I would turn up, and this is before you had to take ID into clubs and things like that. And literally I'd go, it's Kirk Field from Mixmag. And he went, oh, Bill? We're going to have the Kirk Field from Mixmag here. I've already had 2 of them in. I'm like, but I am Kirk Field from Mixmag. Can you prove it? And of course, I didn't have credit cards in those days. I didn't have any. I was like, but I'm him. And then someone else had come up, one of the DJs, John Digweed, once got me out of a hole. It was at Stearns in Worthing. And John comes up and goes, "Oh, what, you having trouble getting in?" I said, "They don't believe who I am." He goes, "Yeah, it's Kirk from Mixmag." So he got me in, but people would always use my name to get in.
Classic. But and did you ever have one of those moments where you had to blag your way in?
Many times. I had a bet with someone once. In fact, it's a chapter that I sent to my subscribers on my site, kirkfield.net or ravenewworld.co.uk. And every 3 months, I send them some extra content.
Yeah.
And there's a chapter called Blagging all over the world. Beautiful. And I once had a bet with I was full of myself in late 90s and walking down Regent Street, probably floating, if you know what I mean. And he said to me, "Is there anywhere you can't blag into?" I said, "I can blag anywhere." He goes, "Can you get in here?" And it was the Atlantic Bar and Grill, which at the time was very, very cool. So I went straight to the front of the queue and said, "Hi, it's Kirk Field from Mixmag. I'm supposed to be meeting Mike Champion from the Prodigy's manager, who's downstairs." And of course, it was a lot easier in those days because there was no mobile phones. Yeah. So he goes, "Well, you're on the." I said, "No, I'm not on the guest list." I said, "He just called me before he left the office. I've got to go down and see him. He's got to go to Heathrow in about an hour's time. I really need to see him."
Bloody love it.
And he just goes, "Well, I can't let both of you in." I said, "No. I said to Terry, I'll go down. I'll go and have a look, and if he's there, I'll tell you." And he goes, "Okay." So the guy let me go in. There's 200 people outside. He had a clipboard. He was on his own, so I knew he was under pressure. Yeah. So I literally went down, went for a quick wee, came back up again. This is the key. Didn't look at the doorman, but I looked at my mate and went, "Yeah, Mike says it's fine. Come on." And I unclipped the red rope, and the guy's still there with the clipboard. He looks at me and I went, "Yeah, it's fine, mate." And so we went down, and he went, "So is he here?" I said, "No, he's not here." I said, "You've got to buy me a bottle of champagne." So
golden.
So I won the bottle of champagne. So of course we're drinking the champagne, even more high, even more full of myself. And he's going, "Is there anywhere you can't?" I said, "No." Because I said, "Set me a target." And so we bet 50 quid, which was a lot in those days. We bet 50 quid that I couldn't blag my way to Australia and back, right? And I had 6 months to do it. And so the chapter that they're gonna send to all my subscribers explains how I blagged myself over to Australia and back again, and I won the 50 quid.
Beautiful. 50 quid was just a little extra tip there after a trip to Australia. Yeah. I look forward to hearing that one. Beautiful. And when you first came to Ibiza, Kirk, the first time was 1990, did you say?
1990, yeah. I came over, I stayed in Formentera in a hippie commune in 1990 in January. And then the Mixmag sent me out again in June 1990 to interview Bridget Nielsen. And, you know, that's the chapter that's in the book. Another chapter that's in the book is me coming back in 1998 for Time Out magazine, the London's listing magazine. I used to write the Ibiza guide to Time Out every year, 97 to 2000. And I was out covering something, and I heard that Diego Maradona was on the island. It was just after the World Cup had finished in France, the France 98 World Cup. And so I was chasing him around to be the first British journalist to interview Diego Maradona. Yeah. And I very nearly happened. It very nearly happened. A guy called Stefan, he used to run a cafe in the Plaza del Pac in Ibiza town, and he used to run some trance parties in the north of the island. Okay. Really good guy, really cool German guy. And he introduced me to Diego's friend and said, "Look, this is an English guy. He's not like any English person I've met. He's really internationalist. He's not jingoistic. He's like, he's a really cool guy."
He's not a twat.
Still a twat. I'm award-winning twat.
I said he's not a twat, but okay.
All right. Yeah. And he said, so he spoke to Diego, and it came back that, Diego's happy to have a word with me, and if he likes me after first meeting me, he'll give me the first interview. And so this was a major thing to get, obviously because he hadn't talked to any English journalists, any British journalists, since the infamous 1986 Hand of God goal in the World Cup. So this was like, 1998. Wow. This is like 12 years on. Wow. So it would have been a really good scoop to get. Yeah. Anyway, I kept on cancelling my flight. Every single night I'd cancel my flight, delay my trip. And every night I turned up at this cafe waiting for Diego to come in. And it got to 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and the word came back, no, Diego's in Pasha, Diego's in Amnesia, Diego's entertaining some ladies in his flat. Diego's everywhere else apart from where I wanted him to be. Yeah. And so I ran out of money. And I had to get the next flight back on standby for 40 quid. I went to the airport and got on the next plane back to the UK. And I got back, and there was an answer phone message waiting from Stefan saying, "I've got Diego here in the cafe, he wants to meet you." So I just missed out.
You are
on
kidding
it.
me. Wow.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to hang it out, but sometimes you just got to choose right for yourself, Kirk, and you had to go.
Yeah, it would have been an amazing thing, but at least I've got a great chapter out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chasing the hand of God.
I love it. Beautiful. And Kirk, so I'm going to wrap this one up here. We're going to have ourselves a bit of lunch.
Yeah, let's do it.
Before we do, though, when I was interviewing all the people over the years of early Lucky Life TV, well, all over the years of Lucky Life TV, I always asked them 2 questions. And I'm adding or changing one of them into a new question now. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions right before we wrap up, because I never got to ask you them. In all those years, I never interviewed you. So now that I am, tell me, Kirk, what is going to be the luckiest thing that has ever happened to you?
Being born. Every day's a gift.
Beautiful. I agree with that completely. And yeah, that's the only thing that's lucky that happens. The rest, you make it happen after that. And what has got to be your favorite thing about this island of Ibiza?
The possibilities, which not necessarily could be, it doesn't mean it positive, but there's endless possibilities here, and there's a release, there's a freedom, there's an acceptance, and it's an adventure, isn't it?
Yeah, completely.
If you embrace her, and it is a her,
Yeah.
the island's a her. And she's, I believe, my relationship with Ibiza is that I always believe if you love her, she'll love you back. If you abuse her, she'll spit you up and throw you out.
I've heard something very similar to this said in many of the interviews when I ask people about Ibiza. Yeah, everyone's, especially those exact words, that she'll chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah.
And it's true. I've seen it happen many times before. And lastly, a new question which I'm adding in. There might be a bit of a name change with things moving.
By the way, I don't know what he's going to ask.
No, he doesn't have a clue. No. I mean, we just walked in, I had a little catch up. Kirk asked me, had some wonderful things to say to me and about me, which was wonderful to hear from him. Asked me a bunch of questions, and then I said, I'm asking you nothing because I want to be fresh with information and questions on this interview. And lastly, Kirk, what are you loving most about life right now?
Well, that I'm still here, really. I've lost my best friend two weeks ago, and as you get, death stalks us. Death's like a sniper on a tower block as you walk down the street. The longer you walk down the street, the more snipers there are, and so you've got to take everything. You've got to really grasp life, and you've got to really make the most of it. And I think the one thing, and in memory of Chris, who loved Ibiza, who's a really Ibiza person. One thing that we used to say when people say, some people say the glass is half empty, some people say the glass is half full. Well, we used to say, there's a glass. That's all you need.
Have you got a glass?
There's got to be a glass.
There's always a glass.
Talking of which, should we go and find somewhere that's got some glasses?
Let's go and have a glass and put something in it and have a bit more of a
have a
chat.
toast.
It's been lovely. Yeah, indeed, we'll have a toast. Lovely to see you soon. Congratulations and thank you for everything,
Thank you,
really, from the bottom of my heart and from me and from all of the people that have gotten to tour Ibiza because of me. It's also because of you, and also a big shout out to Damo and Nick as well.
That's great, and great what you're doing. I love that rave retreat thing you do. I'd love to come and do some talks at that. I'd love to come over and do some acid house storytelling and entertain and share some adventures with your guests. I'd like to do that.
100%. So for those of you that are looking to come out to Ibiza, we're not doing the hedonistic rave tours that we did 15 years ago with 500 of us losing it for a week. It's a bit more of a balance. We're now doing an eat, sleep, rave and retreat. So there's a bit of balance to it all. Lovely stuff, Kirk. Thank you so much. And to everybody else out there, check out Rave New World, Kirk's new book, and out of Edinburgh.
Edinburgh Fringe, yeah, and the audiobook, he's proud of the audiobook because, that's the award winner. That's available on Spotify.
It's also under Rave New World,
Audible.
right?
Yeah, Rave New World is just the audiobook. It's available on Audible, Spotify. Without a subscription, you can get it on.
Amazing.
But if you do want to come and see me on a theatre tour in October and November, if you go to kirkfield.net or have a look at your local theatre listings, and it'd be great to come along and a strobe down memory lane. It'll appeal to anybody that lost themselves in the lasers in the 90s or quite remember whether they lost themselves in the lasers in the 90s.
Beautiful stuff, guys. So check that out and keep an eye on Ibiza with Mike for more content just like this of beautiful and inspirational people from Ibiza. Big love.
Ciao.
See ya.
So my name's Kirk Field. I was Mixmag's raving reporter from 1989 to 1995. It wasn't as bad as a thing called Sundance
and this is the actual flyer copy. 12 of the scene's top DJs, 3 MCs, 2 live PAs. Inner City aren't having bacon fries because they're having... 100k kilowatt turbo sound rig with sub-bass boosters.
At one point, they removed their clothes and formed a human pyramid.
It's one of them acid house parties, wasn't it? It's one of them acid house parties. Multicoloured water-cooled lasers.